What's going on, everybody? Chadley here, and in today's video we're going to be making a tier list out of all the Pyromancer skills. Now this is just going to be my opinion. This isn't just the set answer for this. This is personally how I feel about all the different skills. Your lists may differ. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think the different skills are at, but otherwise this is purely my opinion. I'm basically going to be talking about an endgame standpoint and just how they work at like CT 15 in maxed out builds. Otherwise, we're just going to go through each one. I will rank it and then give my reasonings why. But if you guys do enjoy this video, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel for more Outriders content. But let's go ahead and jump right into this tier list. So first off, we're going to be starting with Heatwave. Now, Heatwave, in my opinion, is honestly one of the best pyro skills. Not only is it needed for the Akari set, which is by far the best set, not going to lie, Heatwave puts out some pretty crazy damage and obviously inflicts burn, which in the end of your expeditions, that's going to be a lot of damage. I'm going to put Heatwave all the way up in A tier. It's just such a simple skill, but it works so well. And then obviously you can get 3 of them and the 25% debuffs. It's a huge part of a lot of debuff builds. And overall, this skill is just so good and deserves its spot in the A tier. Next up, we have Feed the Flames. Now, I'm not really a huge fan of Feed the Flames. Really, it's only going to do 2 things for you. One, it's going to heal you in a moment's notice, but normally that's not too big of a deal for the pyro. As long as you got something burning, you're pretty much going to be at full health anyways. And then also, if you guys are running a bullet build, you can get ammo back with this. That's pretty much all I've ever seen Feed the Flames used for, and all I ever really suggest it being used for. So unfortunately, I will have to be putting Feed the Flames into C tier. If you guys do enjoy this, by all means, keep using it, but for me and endgame stuff, I just don't really find too many uses for it. It's pretty much just a capstone procer and ammo regen, and that's pretty much it. So it's gonna deserve a spot here in the C tier. Now, next up, we got Thermal Bomb. So in the demo, Thermal Bomb was by far my favorite skill, but once I got to the main game, it kind of fell off for me a little bit. Now, for the most part, all I really use Thermal Bomb for is the branded debuff to go with the Heatwave debuff, so we can get that 155% in total. The damage out of Thermal Bomb can be pretty nice, but it's fairly hard to actually hit the enemies with the explosion. Most of the time, the enemies will be too spread out, and you won't really get that max damage, and the enemies are just going to survive. They have so much health in the end game, and you really need it to do max damage to actually get a kill. Also, with the debuffing aspect, you get 80% out of 2 of them, and you can cast it really fast. So overall, it's just a lone debuff skill. It's so good, but that does require a tier 3 mod. With all that being said, I'm gonna have to throw Thermal Bomb here into the B tier. It's not quite as good as Heatwave in my opinion, but it still has plenty of uses. Now moving on to Overheat. Overheat, in the beginning, I actually was not a huge fan of this skill, but once I learned how to use it and its strengths and weaknesses, this mod is, in my opinion, probably the best mod for the Pyromancer. There is so much you can do with this mod, and once you guys get your hands on tier 3 mods, it's gonna have like a 6-second cooldown. You can just spam this thing for any scenario. If you need to move positions and you need the enemies to stop shooting you for a second, just pop Overheat, run to your new position, and by the time you're ready to set up your next combo, Overheat's ready to go. And you can just nuke things, deal 3+ million damage depending on what your combos are. And it's just absolutely disgusting how good this mod is. And not to mention, it hits literally every single thing on the map. So if you got riflemen camping in the back of the map, you can just passively take them out as you're fighting through all the normal mobs of enemies. And those riflemen are just not going to stand a chance. Overall, Overheat is, in my opinion, the best skill for Pyro, and it definitely belongs in the S tier. Now let's go ahead and move over to Volcanic Rounds. When the demo was out, I was very excited to see what Volcanic Rounds were going to do after seeing all of the different AP bullets, but Volcanic Rounds did not really hold up the way I would want it to. The aura around it is actually pretty nice for setting things on fire, but unfortunately, there's just not enough synergy at the moment with how legendaries are in the game with this thing to be using very well. So with the torture set, a lot of it has max health or firepower. There's no anomaly power for just setting everything on fire. If we ever get random passives on legendaries, I think it will increase the value of Volcanic Rounds a little bit. But in terms of the AP bullets in the game, this is by far the worst. Twisted and Blighted blow this thing out of the water. So overall, I'm going to have to put Volcanic Rounds into the B tier. It does work, but it's just not really your best option in terms of Pyro endgame. Now, moving on over to Ash Blast. Ash Blast is one of my favorite skills for Pyro. Overall, the CC is crazy, the range on it is crazy, and you can add even more range with one mod, which is pretty wild. And then you can combine that with Overheat and just nuke the entire map. This is a part of some of the world record speed runs so far with the Pyromancer, and there's just so many things you can use Ash Blast for. Ash Blast is definitely going to belong in our S tier here. It's just so versatile, it's so good, belongs with Overheat up there. Now on to our final two. This one is probably my favorite in terms of just animation and everything about it, and that is Phaser Beam. Phaser Beam can work very, very well once you guys get your hands on Ashen Champion. It's going to boost your anomaly power by 100% if you hit 5 enemies with it, and that is incredibly easy to do when you put Size Matters for the extra radius on Phaser Beam. Phaser Beam itself can actually do a decent amount of damage, but it's overall just really good for setting up an Overheat combo in my opinion. And it's actually not quite as hard to stay alive while casting this thing as many people make it out to be. As long as you set a group on fire with like Heatwave beforehand, you're pretty much good to go. You're not really going to die, but just that overall cast time does slow down your runs quite a bit. It's several seconds of casting per use, and if you guys are using it many times per, that's a lot of seconds of just standing there and doing nothing, doing no damage. But once again, it is very good for nuking lines of enemies. So overall, I'm going to have to put Phaser Beam in the A tier. It's not quite as good as Ash Blast and Overheat in my opinion, but it definitely can get the job done. Now finally, I think this is everybody's pretty much favorite skill for Pyro, and that is Eruption. Who doesn't love just sending out volcanoes? And overall, Eruption does a ton of damage. It's really good for clearing enemies, and you can actually make it work even without really any mod investment either. With our debuff Pyro, we don't really use any mods except for an extra charge of Eruption, and we still just destroy elites. As long as you get those debuffs on, you're pretty much good to go. So just base by itself, it's already really good. But the thing that always drives me crazy about Eruption is its cooldown time. So its cooldown, I think the lowest you can get it is right around 18 seconds, give or take a second or two. And that's still a very long time in terms of cooldowns for skills. Like I said, with Overheat, you can do millions of damage with Overheat, and it cools down every 6 seconds. So that's a pretty drastic difference right there. Also, its set bonus with the Lava Lick set is not really that great. It's nice that it does extra damage, but the cooldown of just being 10% solely for Eruption and all of that set not really having cooldown, you're actually losing out on the number of casts per expedition, because your cooldowns are going to be much longer than just running, say, purples with all cooldown reduction. So unfortunately, as long as that set does not get a buff, I don't really see this thing being the best skill in the game for Pyro. So I'm going to have to put Eruption into A tier. There's still some improvements that could be had with this, but the main thing that draws back for me is just that cooldown. It's just so long, and every second counts in Outriders. Yeah, guys, that's how I'm overall going to have to rank our 8 Pyromancer skills. In the S tier, we have Overheat and Ash Blast. In the A tier, we have Heatwave, Phaser Beam, and Eruption. And then in the B tier, we have Thermal Bomb and Volcanic Rounds. And rounding us out in the C tier, we have Feed the Flames. Yeah, once again, that's just completely my opinion. If you guys have differing opinions, please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to talk about it. I think it's a lot of fun just seeing what everybody's opinions are. But if you guys did enjoy this fun little video, make sure to leave a thumbs up on it to let me know. Really helps me out. Also consider subscribing for more Outriders content. But anyways, hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next video. See ya.